Many ancient civilizations told stories about giants. That shouldn't be possible. One culture can create a legend. Two might be a coincidence. But when the same idea appears across the ancient world, you have to ask why. One ancient Jewish text places giants before the flood. Greece says they ruled before the gods. Other civilizations remembered them for very different reasons. So what did they know that we don't? Stay with me, because before this investigation is over, we'll uncover what was found inside a cave in Nevada, and why some people believe it could change the way we look at these ancient stories forever. Our first clue comes from the book of Enoch. It tells the story of heavenly beings sent to watch over humanity, but according to the text, they saw something they were never meant to desire: human women. They left the heavens, took wives, had children. Their children became a race of giants, known in Genesis as the Nephilim. But that's not the strangest part. The story says the Watchers gave humanity knowledge it was never meant to have. They taught people how to make weapons, how to shape metal, how to cast spells, even how to wear jewelry and cosmetics. According to the text, that knowledge changed the world. Violence spread. Humanity became corrupt. Then came the flood. Whether you see that as history, symbolism, or mythology, one question refuses to go away. Why would one of the oldest Jewish texts begin human history with giants? If this were the only story like this, calling it mythology would be easy. But then you open the stories of ancient Greece, and the mystery gets even stranger. The Greek story begins very differently. There are no watchers, no forbidden knowledge, no flood. And yet, it also begins with giants. Long before Zeus ruled the heavens, another generation held power: the Titans. This wasn't the world of humans. It wasn't even the world of the gods. It was the age of giants, one that had to disappear before a new age could begin. Then there's another group, the Cyclopes. The Greeks believed they built walls so enormous that no ordinary human could have moved the stones. Even today, those massive structures are still known as Cyclopean walls. This isn't the same story we found in Enoch, but once again, giants appear at the beginning of history. Why do so many ancient civilizations begin their story with giants? But the investigation doesn't end there. The deeper you look, the earlier giants appear. According to Norse mythology, before humans walked the earth, there was a giant named Ymir. Odin, the chief god in Norse mythology, killed him with his two brothers. But that wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the world. Using Ymir's body, Odin and his brothers created the world. His flesh became the land. His blood became the seas. His bones became the mountains. His skull became the sky. The world itself begins with a giant. 3 civilizations, 3 completely different worlds. Yet they all begin with giants. By now, one thing should be clear. The stories are changing. The pattern isn't. Then the investigation reaches South America. Ancient Andean traditions tell of enormous beings who arrived from across the sea. No one knew where they came from. Their size made them powerful. Their strength made them feared. According to those traditions, they became corrupt, and in the end, they were destroyed by divine judgment. Once again, the giants belong to a forgotten world. For most historians, the answer seems simple. Long ago, people didn't write history the way we do today. They used myths to explain the world around them. the creation of the world, great floods, mountains, the stars, humanity itself. In other words, giants weren't history. They were mythology. For many scholars, the case is closed. It should have been the end of the investigation. It wasn't. In 1911, a discovery inside a cave in the Nevada desert brought the debate back to life. Lovelock Cave. But the story of that cave didn't begin in 1911. It began centuries earlier. Long before miners ever entered it, the people who had lived in that desert for generations already feared it. They were the Northern Paiute, a Native American tribe from the Nevada desert. According to their tradition, a tribe known as the Sitka once lived in the region. They were described as unusually tall. They had striking red hair. But what people feared most wasn't their size. According to Paiute tradition, they practiced cannibalism. The story says neighboring tribes eventually united against them. They chased them into a cave, blocked every escape, and set the cave on fire. According to Paiute tradition, that was the end of the Sitka. Centuries later, miners searching for fertilizer entered the same cave. What they uncovered was real. Thousands of artifacts, human remains, evidence that people had lived there for thousands of years. Then the reports became extraordinary. Newspapers across Nevada began describing discoveries that seemed almost impossible to believe. Some reported unusually tall human skeletons. The reports spread quickly. But they weren't the only reason the story refused to disappear. Archaeologists uncovered thousands of artifacts, including woven sandals, tools, and human remains. They also found burned arrow points and evidence of an ancient fire near the entrance of the cave. Discoveries that some researchers believe match the Paiute story of a final battle against the Sitka giants. Over the years, people claimed they had seen unusually large skulls displayed at the Humboldt Museum. Reports also emerged describing a woven sandal said to measure nearly 15 inches, about 38 centimeters, large enough to fit someone well over 2 meters tall. That measurement has never been conclusively verified in the original records, but stories like these continued to fuel the controversy. Years later, the human remains were returned to Native American tribes under federal law. Today, the most important evidence can no longer be carefully examined. If you're enjoying investigations like this, subscribe. Every week, we investigate the world's greatest mysteries, following the evidence wherever it leads. Archaeologists agree the cave is authentic. They agree people lived there thousands of years ago. Sometimes what they continue to debate is what some of those discoveries actually meant. That's where this investigation ends. We may never know whether giants truly walked the earth. But after following the evidence, one thing becomes clear. Ancient civilizations didn't agree on their gods. They didn't speak the same language or share the same culture. Yet somehow, whatever the answer, every civilization felt the story was important enough to preserve. That's the real mystery.